happens when basically you let your faith override good common sense.
Right. You and I were discussing this a few days ago, this story, and we both kind of agreed that the only potential way somebody could get to the point where they would look at their child who had this problem and wouldn't go and seek medical treatment for it as soon as possible is if they had been so damaged at a young age that this kind of belief and this kind of weird, messed up faith was ingrained in their mentality.
It's truly shocking. And I think, yeah, I mean, it's that the part where the Steven Weinberg has this quote, who's the physicist, who said, "Good people will do good things, bad people will do bad things, but to get good people to do bad things requires religion." And I think anyone objectively who's looking at that is going to say this is tragic, and they should take her to the hospital right away. There should be no delay in taking her to the hospital. But these, you know, yeah, I don't know what else to say about it.
Well, anyway,
I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking, and I do think you know, the parents of this child had to have suffered in some way in order to get to the point where they could ever do this, and which does bring us to our topic, which is childhood indoctrination. That's what we're talking about today. And before we launch into our discussion of this, I think we need to define specifically what indoctrination is. So I'm going to give you the definition of that, and then we're going to jump to a call, and then we'll go ahead and come back to our topic. So the definition we're working with today specifically of indoctrination is to imbue with a partisan or ideological point of view. To imbue. Keep that in mind. And we're going to go to a call here. We've got Frank in Seattle. Frank, can you hear me? Go ahead. Frank?
For you, it's a bit off topic, but I think it's pertinent. I've been watching your show for some time now, and I realize that that atheists don't ridicule Luciferian or satanic groups as ardently as they do Christians. And I was just wondering why that was.
Good question. I'll tell you, I sure do. Honestly, we have a little bit of an echo, and I apologize. We have a strange kind of sound glitch we've been trying to deal with today, so I apologize for that right off the bat. I certainly do. I think the reason why you hear Christianity mentioned more than other kinds of religious belief is because there is a majority of Christians in our country. We have you know, other religions and non-belief are not as popular. You don't have as strong a head count. So we have so many Christians out there in the United States that are interfering with other people's rights and freedoms that it kind of comes more naturally.
There's just more written about them.
Yeah, then there's more written about them. It's a larger part of our culture overall. But I absolutely, I mean, I will throw down with a Christian or a Satanist or whoever wants to discuss. I will gladly talk to any of them.
I personally think that there's not that big of a substantial difference between Satanists and Christians because they both have to believe in the same worldview. I mean, well, the worldview might be slightly different, but they still believe in the same supernatural stuff. They still accept that there are supernatural powers and that these deities exist. So, in my mind, because they're all under the umbrella of beliefs without evidence, they run into the same categories. But the answer to your question, Frank, is because no one talks about the Satanists, because I'm sure there are so few of them that they actually don't, you know, this doesn't come into the discourse.
I see.
Do you have anything else?
Anyway, just a suggestion that maybe you can consider them fair game in the future.
Oh, we absolutely do, and I'm sure if we end up with some interesting news articles on people of other beliefs, we will absolutely discuss those too. We don't mean to single out Christians only. It's just that tends to be what comes up in the news more often.
Hey, Frank, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What is it that you believe?
Oh, I consider myself a Christian.
Okay.
Okay, and why do you believe that?
Well, it's just my preference. I mean, I read the Gospels and it appeals to me.
Okay. Well, that's good enough.
Frank, we appreciate your call. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Okay, so that was cool.
Yeah. No, I wasn't going to start, you know, trying to tear him apart or whatever.
Right.
But he had a good point. I mean,
yeah, he did have a good point.
Someone could call us and say, why don't we talk more smack about Zoroastrians? Well, you know what? They don't do as crazy stuff that gets in the news. You know,
that's kind of true.
That's just the way it is.
Anyway, let's go on with our topic here, childhood indoctrination. And I want to point out too, the show here was kind enough to allow me to speak on this subject, which is important to me. The things that I'm going to say today are my opinion only. This does not necessarily represent the point of view of anybody else on our crew or of Seattle Atheists and Agnostics or any other group. So, you know, this is Libby talking about what Libby thinks about this subject. Just let's keep that in mind. So, again, we're going back our definition of indoctrination to imbue with a partisan or ideological point of view. Important to keep that in mind. Richard Dawkins wrote a book that he's pretty well known for called The God Delusion. I'm sure probably some viewers have seen it. If you haven't, I think it's well worth picking up and reading, whether you are religious or not. Yeah. It's an interesting, fascinating kind of book. In the book, he goes so far as to call childhood indoctrination abuse, and he has been criticized for calling it abuse by many groups and individuals, and not all of them have been religious. Atheists have spoken up and said, hey, I think you're going too far when you call it abuse. Yeah. I'm not sure I would go as far as to call it abuse, but I do think that it is a serious threat to humanity. And that might sound kind of like hyperbole, but I'll make my point. I think that it is damaging to children's minds, that it instills in them an irrational fear of the world, or at least of an afterlife, of what's going to happen to you after you die. And then it also can handicap their ability to reason, or it can do both of those things. I talk about this issue sometimes with other people, and I get one of 4 responses from them usually when I bring this up. And I'll address kind of my rebuttals to these 4 typical responses I get to my opposition to indoctrination right after we take a call. We actually have our first out-of-state caller.
For today, at least.
For today. Yeah. I guess we've had one before. We've got B on the line from Salem, Massachusetts. B, are you there?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Hey, B, thanks for calling.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up something I've been thinking about recently.
Okay.
And it's because I lived in Salem, which is obviously most well known for the Salem witch trials
right.
of 1692.
Yeah.
And I guess my thing is, when I first moved to Salem about 13 years ago, you know, I was pretty excited about it because I love history and everything, and it's a very historic part of the state and the country. And I guess over the last couple of years, I've kind of changed a little bit the way that I think about it, because I guess the whole thing that Salem thrives on is its tourism.
Right.
And every October we have this big haunted happenings event, and we celebrate.
Whoa, sorry about that.
I think that was a ghost.
Yeah, that was probably.
I'm sorry, B, are you still there?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I hope that didn't blast your eardrums out.
The booth can just take down the audio out here, and I think we'll probably eliminate most of that because the caller is quite loud. So go ahead, B, please.
Okay, yeah, and I guess I've kind of changed the way I feel a little bit, because I noticed that our whole Halloween celebration and everything is based around the witch trial.
Uh-huh.
And it almost seems to me like it's in a way capitalizing on the misfortune of 20 people, or, you know, and it reaches far more than 20 people if you consider everybody who was imprisoned and
right.
people who died in prison and weren't actually executed yet. And I don't know, to me it kind of rubs me a little bit wrong, because everything that you see in town is you know, witch this and witch that and witch museum and witch dungeon and all these things.
Guys, just turn the wedge away. Actually, just swivel it
Hold on a second, B, if you can hear me right now. We're having some serious audio issues.
Okay, try it again, B.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was pretty much just wrapping up my point that it's like, you know, just walking around town, especially during tourist season, to me, it's starting to feel a little more disturbing than anything when you see everybody wearing witch hats and things like that. And I don't know. I mean, I love the history of where I live and everything, and I love my town and all. But to me, it's getting to the point where I really don't like the you know, just benefiting from somebody else's misfortune.
Well, are you disagreeing with it on a theological grounds, or are you just disagreeing on it because it's kind of distasteful to think about people that were killed unjustly?
Yeah, it's kind of funny you bring that up, because like a lot of people don't even realize the theological reasons behind it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people will say, well, they were just superstitious people, and they didn't understand that there's no such thing as witches. But they don't understand that that's based directly out of the holy books, you know, saying thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, and that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. This came directly
from... People deny that's part of it, but I guess my bigger point is that just the fact that